Mr. Landry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here this morning.
Absolutely.
As I'm reading this, it says that the department may grant a school district a waiver. So if there's a school district that wants a waiver, that doesn't necessarily mean that they can opt out.
Yes,
it has to be approved by you.
Kathy, would you read your name into the record?
Kathy Golson, Texas Department of Agriculture. Yes, sir. They applied to us for a waiver. We have a waiver form that they have to fill out. There are several reasons within the statute that actually are in this bill. A lot of this bill is current language, actually. And they have different reasons they can waive out. So transportation is one, and that's the most common reason. They have their kitchen under construction. They have fewer than 100 children in the district that would qualify to get the meals. And we have kind of an extenuating circumstances provision. That could be a number of things. And so we asked them to give us a reason that they're opting out and to provide us a little information about that reason. And then we also asked them if they will give us a name of a local nonprofit or organization in their community that could possibly serve as the summer meal sponsor if the school district can't do it. So we, like Susie had said, we work a lot with our nonprofits and our other partners out there to encourage them to work with school districts and back and forth. So if the school district can't do it, that they can jump in, or if a school district can only do it part of the summer, then they can pick up the ball the rest of the summer.
But it's just on its base, it's not truly an opt-out program.
Not an automatic opt-out,
okay.
No, sir.
Now, it says one of the things down here, it may grant a school district waiver only if, and one of the reasons listed is there are fewer than 100 children.
Correct.
If there are more than 100 children, they don't even have the option of opting out. Is that?
Well, we look at each situation individually. Since we administer the National School Lunch and School Breakfast Program, we're familiar with a lot of these school districts. In rural areas of the state is often the majority of the districts that try to opt out because they just don't have the children or the population to serve. So we try to work with them. If that might fall under extenuating circumstances if they think that there's going to be just not enough to hold a program. So we look at each individual situation.
Okay. Now, I don't see down here a reason of, because it's going to cost them money if they do this.
It does cost the school districts additional money. They get a reimbursement for the program for the meals served, but we actually have a report that we issue every other year to the legislature that lists the school districts that participated and what their costs were over the federal reimbursement. So it does, depending on the district, it does cost them some money.
Right. And right now, with the budget and the cuts and everything, what's not in this opt-out is they just can't afford it. So if a school district comes to you and they just can't afford it, that's not good enough to get them a waiver. Is that correct under this?
We would like I said, we would look at their individual circumstance. If it looked like that it was not feasible for them to offer a program, then we would try to work with them to see if there was another provider in the area.
And what if you could not find another provider in the area?
Then we would ask that they try to offer at least for a few weeks and do it that way. I mean, most of the time, if it just looks like there's no way for them to offer a program, then we will give them a waiver.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Anderson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And is this program, the numbers that we're talking about, that predicated on the number of children that would participate, or is it predicated on the population of the school?
You look at your free and reduced price population. So we know how many students qualify for free or reduced price meals in school districts. So that sets the percentage that would be under the requirement. So if a school district has, under this bill, if the school district had at least 50% free and reduced price population, then they would fall under the requirement.
And they would have to contact you and initiate this process?
Correct. We ask school districts in the fall to get back to the TDA as to whether they're going to offer a program. We notify them that you fall under the provision that you're required to offer a summer nutrition program, and then we ask them to contact us and let us know if they're going to or they're going to opt out or waive out.
And the reason I was asking, in visiting with superintendents throughout the district, one of their biggest complaints is that all the red tape and all the programs that they have to comply with, and actually having to have an associate superintendent of programs to apply for all of it. And as has been mentioned in the situation with the cost and the concern for the taxpayers and the cost that the schools are dealing with currently, the budget, that can be a problem there. And we're, I'm wondering if there's not a more efficient way to go about that. But I wonder if you could provide the committee with a copy of the latest report that has the different school districts.
Yes, sir. I sure will.
Thank you.
And I might mention also, school districts have the option to do what's called the seamless summer option, which is the summer nutrition program, but it's an extension of the National School Lunch Program, so it's a little less administrative paperwork for them. So they do have that option to do that, and some school districts do that. But it depends on the individual school district situation, and we definitely try to be sensitive to their budget situation and what's going on with them.
Thank you.
And my question has to do with the 50%, because as I remember, and you correct me, but the higher above 50% you go on having 50% or more of your population being eligible for free and reduced lunch, the more you fall into federal programs and feeding mandates and all kinds of separate things.
Correct. You would have a greater population that participates in the federal school lunch program, school breakfast, those sort of things. So you would have a greater percentage of your population that do fall into those programs.
Yeah. So you're in a whole different category as a school district anyway.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good question that the chairman brought up there. This would apply just to the summer, just to 60%.
Well, we look at their percentage of free and reduced cost population for the previous year. So we look at what their population was, and then that's how we actually determine what school districts fall under the requirement.
But as far as the bracketing and all, would that put that school district in the 60% from the full?
We look at the right.
Or would that just be the summer?
No, for the full previous year. So say Austin ISD is about 64% free and reduced, I believe, somewhere in there. And so we will look at Austin ISD's percentage for the previous year. Then that's when we send out the requirement letter saying you're required to fall under this provision in the summer nutrition program. So that's how we would determine it. We don't just look at the population percentage for the summertime. We look at the previous school year.
Okay, but now when that happens and you go through that process and then the school district is now in the 60%, does that apply to the full year as far as I know, will they be in the next bracket?
If they fell in that year prior, then they would fall in. We're always going to look at the year prior now. If the school district, say, was 60% this school year, and then over the next year, and they had to fall into the summer nutrition program for this summer, and then next year they fell below that, then they wouldn't be in the requirement for the following summer. Does that make sense?
But if they did qualify or were put into it for the current summer feeding program, then that would apply, so they would be up into the 60 percentile for the next full year.
They may or may not be. Depends on what so like for this summer, we're looking at the previous year. For the next summer, we're looking at the previous year. So they could be under the requirement for this summer and then look at their population. When they take their statistics in the following school year, they may fall under that, and they may not have to do it for the summer program for the next year, is how it would work.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, members? Mr. Howard?
I apologize, I wasn't here for all the testimony, but you just mentioned that you have a report that basically expressed how much money it costs the school districts. In our little fiscal note, it says that the Department of Agriculture cites an average of $39,075 per school district based on expenditures in 2010. You multiply that by 1,054 school districts, that's about $40 million. Is that kind of the price range that your report has?
The $39,000 applies to the school districts that actually fall under that provision. So what we did is we looked at the report of the school districts. We have this report that we have to turn into the legislature every other year. We took that report, we looked at the average, and we applied that to the 60% or higher and then the 50% or higher. So that amount would be applicable to the districts that fall under the requirement, not every school district across the state necessarily. Because we do have some school districts that are 50% or below.
Okay, thank you.